Hi everybody, we are discussing about the first chapter, the living world, So in this chapter, we already discussed about the general characteristics, okay, we are discussing about the general characteristics and we already discussed about the first two characteristics which we mentioned already as, the first one is what? The growth, okay, first one, the growth. And the second one which we discussed is the reproduction, okay, second characteristic that we discussed is the reproduction. So, when we discussed about these two characteristics, we have come to a conclusion that these two are not well-defined characteristics, okay. So, let us remember, growth and reproduction are not well-defined characteristics of the living organisms, But in this video, we are going to discuss about the next characteristic called as the metabolism. Okay, next characteristic that we are calling it as the metabolism. So today we are going to discuss about the metabolism. So here let us talk about the metabolism. So as we now discuss about the metabolism, there are some points that we have to keep in mind. Now we know that all living organisms, okay, all living organisms are made up of what we say it as cells. Okay, we say it as cells. Okay, let us say that all living organisms are made up of cells or only a single cell. Okay, cells. Now, with this sentence, we also should remember and understand how this cell is formed. And this cell, if you are keeping it in mind, or if you can recollect what you studied in your lower classes, we say that there are chemicals, okay, atoms, which are forming as the molecules, and these molecules will change into macromolecules, and these macromolecules, in various proportions, when they have joined together, they have led to the formation of what now? The cell. Okay, they have led to the formation of the cell. So here, let us remember, the cells are made up of what now? They are made up of, simply we can say that these are made up of what? The chemicals. Okay, they are made up of chemicals. Please remember this. It's a very important thing that we have to keep in mind. Let us remember now that every cell is made up of chemicals only. And it is a unicellular organism or multicellular organism. All are cells made up of cells only, and compulsorily all these cells are made up of what? Chemicals only. This we call it as what? Cellular organization, levels of organization. We call this as what? Cellular organism or levels of organization. We call it as levels of organization. Which means, let us keep one point. That either the cells are forming as tissues, okay, or as the organs. Okay, a group of tissues join together to form as organs. Many organs form as one organ system. Okay, many organs will form as one organ system, and these change into what? An organism. Okay, they form into an organism. Okay, form into an organism. Which means every living organism, okay, all the living organisms are made up of what now? All living organisms, okay, all living organisms are made up of the chemicals. Let us come to this conclusion saying that these all the living organisms are made up of what? Chemicals. Okay, this is a very important point that we have to remember. And these chemicals may be of small in size. Okay, the chemicals that are present may be small and big. Okay, they may be small and big. What are small and big? The chemicals. And those which are small and big will belong. They belong to these small and big chemicals. Belong to various. Okay, they belong to various. Okay, classes. Okay, sizes and functions. This is a point that we have to remember. Okay, various classes, sizes and functions. Okay, these chemicals are what? They will be small and big, and they belong to various classes, sizes and functions. And these are constantly being made. What are constantly being made in our body or in a cell? These chemicals are constantly they are being made. Okay, they are constantly being made in the body or in a cell. So we have to remember how these chemicals are constantly being made. Let us simply say that by chemical reactions. Okay, by various chemical reactions, these are constantly being made. Okay, they are constantly being made. So what are constantly being made in the cell? The chemicals that we are calling as what? Biochemical reactions. So here we are coming across the word chemical reactions. Instead of using this word chemical reactions, we can also call it as what? The metabolic reactions. Okay, metabolic reactions. So here the point we have to keep in mind here is that this metabolic reactions means the sum total of all the chemical reactions that are taking place in our body which support the life are called as what? The biomolecules. Okay, so here now check it out. When we say that, okay, when we say that they are constantly being made, the chemicals which are constantly being made by chemical reactions are otherwise called as what? Metabolic reactions. What they are forming? They are forming the biomolecules. They are leading to the formation of what? The biomolecules. Okay, biomolecules. What are these biomolecules? Those chemical substances which support the life, So biomolecules are the chemical substances which will support the life, For example, you can take the carbohydrates, okay, okay, then the fats, or let us say the lipids, okay, then the nucleic acids, okay, and even very important ones called as the proteins. All these are called as what? The biomolecules. These are all called as the biomolecules which are formed continuously in a cell or in a living organism to support the life. So these chemical reactions, what we are calling it as metabolic reactions. So now we will understand what do you mean by these metabolic reactions with a simple term called as metabolism. We will understand what is metabolism now. So now let us understand the word metabolism. It is the characteristic of the living organisms, we said. So let us define now the word metabolism. Metabolism means the sum total of chemical reactions. Okay, the sum total of chemical reactions. Okay, the sum total of chemical reactions. Sum total of chemical reactions. Okay, the sum total. Okay, the sum total of chemical reactions. Okay, chemical reactions. Okay, the sum total of chemical reactions. Okay, chemical reactions which are taking place in the body. Okay, the sum total of chemical reactions in our body. Okay, in our body is called as what? Metabolism. The sum total of chemical reactions in our body is called as metabolism. Okay, let us keep this point in mind. Okay, this is an important point. Okay, definition that we have to keep in mind. Okay, definition that we have to keep in mind called as what? The sum total of chemical reactions occurring in our body. The sum total of chemical reactions occurring in our body. Okay, let me change it. The sum total of chemical reactions occurring in our body. So let us remember the exact definition. The sum total of chemical reactions occurring in our body. Okay, slight change I did, which is very important according to the textbook. Okay, the sum total of chemical reactions occurring in our body is called as what? Metabolism. But let us talk about this metabolism little in depth. Okay, in detail we will study about this metabolism. See here, when we talk about the word metabolism, as we have defined it above, here we also should remember that it occurs under two steps. One is called as the anabolism. And the other one is called as the catabolism. Both these two together we call it as metabolism. Anabolism and catabolism. What do you mean by anabolism? Let us simply say, in metabolism, anabolism means it is a constructive process. It is a constructive process, means it prepares the food. It prepares the food or it prepares the molecules Okay, joins the molecules means the best example. Just in order to understand this word clearly, let us say that these are all the molecules. Okay, so what happens to these molecules now? They are all joined together and form as a large or a big molecule. This process we are calling as what? Constructive, which means it is nothing but anabolism. Part of what? Metabolism. Okay, it is a constructive process. But the same thing, once it is constructed in the catabolism, what happens is just opposite to this. It is a destructive process, we call it as. It is a destructive process. Okay, it is a destructive process we are calling. Means if this is the molecule, okay, if this is the molecule, this molecule again breaks down into simple molecules. Here what happened? Simple molecules join together to form as the complex molecule. Here the complex molecule is broken down into simple molecules. And to be very clear, let us give one example that happens in the living organisms, that is the photosynthesis. Here you can mention it as the photosynthesis as the anabolic example. And here for catabolism, another example that we can highlight here is the process called as respiration. Okay, respiration. Because if you are seeing in detail about photosynthesis, what is done? It is preparing the food. It is constructing and helping in formation of the food. And here what will happen in respiration? It is breaking the large molecules into simple molecules to release energy, we say. So this is what we have to understand whenever we are coming across the word metabolism. Construct, anabolism and catabolism. Constructive process and destructive process. And one more point that we have to remember here is that metabolism is seen in several thousands. Metabolism will be seen in all the living organisms. Please remember that. Metabolism is seen in all living organisms. Please remember this. Okay. It is observed in all the living organisms. Okay. All the living organisms will be showing metabolisms. And there are several thousands of metabolic reactions that will be taking place in all these living organisms. It is not one reaction, it is not two reactions. There will be thousands of reactions that will be taking place. Okay, thousands of reactions, several thousands of reactions that will be taking place inside the living organisms. Okay, several thousands of metabolic reactions will be taking place in all the living organisms. They may be these living organisms. When we are talking about these living organisms may be unicellular. Okay, they may be unicellular or they may be multicellular. Okay, or they may be multicellular. Okay, they may be unicellular or multicellular. Either it is unicellular or multicellular, because it is about living organisms. In all these, there are several thousands of metabolic reactions that will be taking place. Let it be plants. Okay, let it be plants. Okay, it may be the animals. Okay, any type of animal. Or it may be the fungi, okay, it may be the fungi, or it may be different types of microbes. In all these, what will be happening? Okay, in all these, what will be happening? The metabolic reactions will be taking place. They may be unicellular or multicellular. Compulsorily, metabolic reactions will be taking place. So now we understood that metabolism means the sum total of chemical reactions occurring in our body, and metabolism is seen in all living organisms. Okay, it is observed in all living organisms. Please remember this. In all living organisms, we see this. Okay, we see in all living organisms what? Metabolism. And no non-living object. Okay, no non-living object exhibits metabolism. Okay, exhibits metabolism. This is a very simple point we have to make note it. Okay, should be careful, because now we have to prove that whether metabolism is a well-defined characteristic of the living organisms or not, and no other organism or non-living thing should not exhibit this process or this characteristic. If they are exhibiting, we cannot say that this is a well-defined characteristic. So that's why let us remember there is no okay, no non-living object, okay, no non-living object exhibits what? Metabolism. No non-living object exhibits metabolism. But we should remember metabolic reactions can be demonstrated outside the body also. Please remember this. Metabolic reactions, okay, or any metabolic reaction or most of the metabolic reactions, okay, metabolic reactions can be demonstrated, okay, can be demonstrated in a cell-free system. We say means in a test tube we can demonstrate the chemical reactions that are taking place in our body, okay, or let us say simply like this. There are some chemical reactions which are taking place in our body can be performed in a test tube. Can be performed in a test tube. Then what we will be calling them as? So in order to understand, first let us keep in mind that metabolic reactions can be demonstrated outside the body. Can be demonstrated outside the body. So when you are taking a test tube, okay, when you are taking a test tube and demonstrating a chemical reaction, that is actual metabolic reactions that are actually taking place where? Inside the body, okay, inside the body. Now we are doing it in a test tube. Let us say that this is a test tube and you are demonstrating the metabolic reaction outside the body. Please remember, whenever we are demonstrating the metabolic reactions that are taking place in our body outside, we call them as what? In vitro. Please remember, in vitro. We call them as in vitro. It means what? Outside the body. The same chemical reaction, if it is taking place inside the body, we call it as what? In vivo. Okay, we call it as in vivo. So remember, in vivo means inside the organism. Okay, inside the organism. In vitro means it is outside the organism. Means what? It is like in a test tube outside the organism. So any chemical reaction, the metabolic reactions that are taking place inside the test tube can neither be living nor non-living. Okay, the metabolic reactions that are taking place inside the test tube can neither be living nor non-living. So we cannot say that these are living nor non-living. Okay, this is a very important sentence which we should not get confused. Okay, again I am repeating, the metabolic reactions that are taking place outside the body, in vitro, okay, outside the body, can neither be living nor non-living. Okay, can neither be living nor non-living. But surely we are seeing here that here the non-living things are participating, and here we call those, if they are taking place inside the body, as what? The living reactions. And surely, compulsorily, when they are taking place outside the body, okay, we can say them as what? The living reactions. Okay, living reactions. So that's what we have to keep in mind. Let us keep in mind. So let us keep in mind that the reactions that are done outside the body in a test tube, they neither living nor non-living. They are not living things. But surely what? They are what? The living reactions. Please remember, these are the living reactions that we are performing outside the body. That's what is the meaning. Okay, they are the living reactions which are performed outside the body, but they are not what? Living things. They are not living things. Remember that. If you are performing it outside, it is not a living thing. Okay, it is not neither living nor non-living. But surely what? They are living reactions. They are living reactions, and these living reactions are performed inside the body of an organism, and we are calling them as what? The metabolism. Okay, we are calling them as metabolism. So without any exception, let us remember that metabolism is a well-defined characteristic. Okay, metabolism is a well-defining characteristic of all the living organisms. Okay, metabolism is a well-defining characteristic. Okay, characteristic of all the living organisms. Okay, this is very important point that we have to keep in mind. Okay, metabolism is a well-defining characteristic of all the living organisms. Hence, we also should remember that, as I have shown you here, that atoms, molecules, macromolecules, the chemicals are helping in formation of what? The cell. And this cell, a group of cells join together to form as tissues. A group of tissues join together to form as the organs. And organs they form as the organ system and leading to organism. This is the levels of organization. Which means in this levels of organization also the cells are there, the basic units of life or the living organism, which are formed by what? Chemicals. So which means the cellular organization is also what? A well-defining characteristic. Please remember that. Because every cell is made up of what? The chemicals only. So these cells are there present in the tissues, or let us say the tissues are made up of cells, organs are made up of tissues which are made up of cells, and these organs are consisting, when they are all the organs are there, we are saying it as organ system and organism. So when all these are there, this is we are calling it as levels of organization or cellular organization, which is also a well-defining characteristic of the living organisms. So in this video, we understood that without any exception, we can say that what? Metabolism is a well-defining characteristic, and cellular organization is also a well-defining characteristic, because in the formation of the cells, there are chemicals that are involved. Okay, the chemicals that are involved. So let us keep this in mind and remember that metabolism and cellular organization is the well-defining characteristics. Thank you.